Hello and welcome to a video tutorial. As promised, I'm doing a kind of wrap up of this first build of the 0mm level, which basically is just train storage in different forms for the layout. So everything moving on from this point now will be more or less scenery. So I know that is a good news for many of you viewers who's not equally fond of the structural and electric dimension of the model railroading. But I thought it was important to wrap things up. As you might remember, I had some friends over here laying all the tracks out. I think it took less than 3-4 hours. It was back in March, and all the time spent since then has been wiring and configuring both in the CS3 but also in the software, the Rockrail. So still, even though we moved to digital system, this portion of the build is still significant. So don't be disappointed if you start building a big model railroad and come to the conclusion that a lot of time needs to be spent on this. But as promised, I'm going to give you a kind of overview of what I've built so far on this first level before moving on to the next. So here goes.
So what you see here is the main train storage area. It's in total 9 tracks and 8 of them are equally long, whilst the 9th one is double long. I'll show you in a minute. And here in this graphic overlay you can see the entire track plan for this level, the train storage and loop level. The 8 tracks are here marked in yellow and they are all 1800 millimeters long, meaning they can hold 1 locomotive with 5 passenger coaches. On these 8 tracks I also plan to have long distance freight trains, mostly unit trains, meaning trains with the same type of car, freight car, behind the locomotive. This type of freight train will not be processed, stopped or anything on the layout. It would just go from this Schattenbahnhof back to it after doing the tour on the layout. But then on the 9th track I have the capability to store a double long train. So here I can have, like in this video here, a locomotive and 10 passenger coaches following. And this is nice to have and run on the layout. It will not stop anywhere because the platforms and everything is too short. But you can run it around the layout, do the tour and then park it back here on the 9th track in the shadow station. Then, as a new amendment to this layout, which I haven't had on previous layouts, is the 2 tracks to the rightmost here. Both of these tracks will be fully visible and accessible when the layout is completed. And the 2 tracks are what the US guys call staging tracks. Each of these tracks have 2 blocks, so they can each hold 2 trains in series. So when a freight train arrives to one of these 2 tracks, it will arrive to a block called arrival. The freight system I use runs over a 2-day cycle. So the train will stay at arriving block first session and then proceed to the departure block, which you see here, which will be free day 2. So what is the point of having these staging tracks? Well, here you can process the car cards and waybills. Like here when I'm turning the waybills from destination 3 to destination 4, preparing them for the next session. Another use for these tracks is to remove arriving cargoes from the freight cars, but also adding cargo to the freight cars which are to be delivered to receivers on the layout during the next session. Another option you have when you use staging tracks is that you can remove cars which are not to be included with the next session. So some transports do not happen every day, so those cars are removed. And same thing around the other way, adding cars which are delivering cargo to the receivers on the layout only sometimes, once a week or once a month. You can also create blocks of cars which are to be received by the same industry. That simplifies the switching or the shunting work on arrival there. But you can also do the other way around. If you have blocks of cars and you want to make it more challenging, then you can take those apart and spread them out in the set. And as mentioned earlier, there will always be 2 freight trains waiting on the arrival track behind these 2 departure tracks, and they will be processed during the next session. Now, following the previous videos about block sections, I got questions in the comment field regarding how to set this up in Rockrail. So now we're inside Rockrail. The track plan can be run in 2 modes, either operate or, as we're in now, edit panel. So now we're in edit mode. All you need to do is to drag and drop the track pieces or function pieces you want in your track plan from the menu to the track plan. Rotate it if necessary. And as we concluded in the previous video about block sections, a block consists from a starting sensor, and then comes this stretch of tracks, which in my case was 1800 millimeter long sections of track, and then in the end of that another sensor which communicates in. So now the train is fully into this block. So now we got all the pieces here in place. What we typically need to do now is to give them both the sensors and the block more comprehensible names. I typically always name the sensors with an S followed by the interface address it will have in the system. So this one will be called S09, and this feedback decoder is on bus 1, so it will have 1 and 9 there. And I click apply. Then we need to do the same thing with the other sensor, the sensor which will communicate in on the other end of the block. So we select properties, we change the name to S10, and then we go to the interface tab. This is also bank 1, but it has address 10. And that is all the settings we need to do for the sensors. Now we need to go into the block settings by selecting properties. Change the name of the block, and I decide to call this line underscore 01, and I click apply on that. We'll select the routes tab, and under routes we can define what these 2 sensors will do for this block. And as you remember, we have sensor 10 in one end and sensor 9 in the other. So I select sensor 10 here, and entering from the plus side, you see there's a small plus mark in one end of the block. That will give a signal to the system that the train has entered the block. And then of course when it reaches the other end of the block at sensor 9, it will communicate in. So then the train will come to full stop if it's supposed to stop in this block. With that done, we should also define what happens if the train arrives from the other end, meaning the side of the blocks we do not have that plus mark. And then we select instead all enter at without the plus mark, and of course then it will be the opposite way around. So the sensor 9 will communicate enter and sensor 10 will communicate in. So there the train will come to a full stop if it's supposed to stop. So setting these things up in Rockrail is quite easy, and then once you have it set it up, then you can click route and everything will auto route for you.
All right. So that's a bit about what I've been thinking when planning the train storage level here. Now moving on from this point, I'll do the grades up to where the scenery actually starts. So I made a video quite recently on the topic grades and helixes. If you haven't seen that, check that video out. I'm putting up a link to it. So I will not be making a new video on the same topic again. So I will leave you with that video. Otherwise we will continue now to do scenery. I hope you have some takeaways from this about train storage, but also how to set things up in Rockrail to for the blocks with the sensors and things like that. If you have use for the information provided here on the channel, please consider to support the channel. Get over to Patreon, set up a support account there from $1, $2, $4, $20 per month. At $20 you also get access to a Discord chat channel where you can ask questions and bounce ideas. I think we're 15 people there currently from all over the world. So there are both not just HO scale 3 rail, no, it's N scale, a Z scale, and narrow gauge. So there's a variety of very knowledgeable people there to support you with your questions as well. So that's something I can really recommend. If you're not yet a subscriber to the channel, please subscribe. Enable this little bell and you will get the notification once next video gets published. Until that happens, see ya.